Hello, 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 everybody.
Wow, good morning. Hey, Michael. Um, I'm excited about today. First of all, good morning and praise Jesus, right? Because that's the only reason we're here right now with hope, right? With hope and peace and joy. The world is crashing down around us, but you know what? Um, I feel hope because I know that this is a created scenario. This is a created um, narrative. And that, yes, our feelings are wrapped up in it, that people could get hurt, right? But God has made a way for everybody. And so if you want it, you can have it. And that's the most beautiful thing that I could think of, right? Is that, you look at all the times that God interacted with us, right? And he's just so patient and so caring and so loving. And it just, it gets you to think that if you really reach out honestly and you're seeking God, that there's just no way to lose, you know? And I would say if you're genuine about God, there's nothing to worry about because, every time that, in the Bible that he even related to sinners, right? Um, it was all just to help, like, trust me that I could do it, have faith that I could do it and it'll be done, that kind of thing, right? And I look at each one of those encounters as salvation, right? The adulterous woman, the woman that was, also that woman that was, you know, crying on Jesus's feet and washing his feet with her hair. Can you imagine how beautiful of a moment that is, right? To love somebody that much, right? That and I do love him that much, but can you imagine being there? I mean, tremendous, right? And so once we realize, right, that nothing out there is real, right? You can't save it. It's not real. It's a created narrative. It's created. It's that's why people use gematria, and people look at the stars and stuff, and they can kind of divine the future a little bit, right? I mean, we're not supposed to do it, but it's interesting to see that it is possible, and it's possible enough times in a row to be real. You know what I mean? And so that can only be true, right? If God created the beginning from the end, and there is some kind of pattern, right? And so that's what it is. And God is so amazing and so brilliant, and that in every single language, it's true. That's the crazy part, because I was watching this one guy, and I don't know if he's Christian or not. I asked him about it before, and he's definitely not on the side of the evil in this world. Hey, Hannah. He's obviously not um on the side of the evil in this world, but I don't know if he's Christian yet. But to be able to do gematria in French and English, and it's still the same, like, I mean, how is that? I mean, God is just brilliant in how he has created this narrative, and I think that the key is not just turning your back on the world, right? As far as not wanting to sin anymore or not wanting to give into our flesh, but just the understanding that it's not real. It's not for us. It's yes, it's created for us. So I have to contradict myself. Yes, it's created for us, but that's not where we belong, right? There's no saving it. It's going in the trash, right? Or the lake of fire at some point. And so it's a deception. It's not real. The world is not real. And it's time to turn our backs on it. It's time to turn our backs on it. It's time to look only at the hope that God has made for us. There is no winning it back. There is no protest. There is no, hey, we're here. We got to do this. Live in the moment. Yes, I agree. But none of this is savable. Just give all that up. Forget that. You know? No, you're not going to be in the lake of fire, Michael. You need to stop saying that. You need to stop saying that. And because I know that you have a heart for God, right? If you just start serving God, man, all that stuff takes care of itself. You know that I know we talk about salvation a lot, and we'll probably talk about salvation again if Paula comes. I'm going to have her up, and we'll talk about salvation again, right? But the reality is if you just start serving God and just know that He's real, all that will take care of itself anyway. You know, all of it will. You'll naturally just want what God wants. You'll have patience for people. You'll have love for other people. You will have all these spirits of spirit fruit, right? Spiritual fruit, right? And I don't want you guys to worry. I want you guys to look at salvation in God is like a relief, a great relief. Like, wow, it finally, oh, yay. Okay, yeah, sure. I'll give you a link. That's so great. Thank you for giving me 15 minutes. That's so awesome. Okay, hold on. I should have already had the link ready, but I didn't expect you for another 10 minutes. But I'll go ahead and put it in there. Oh, yay, Paula's gonna join me. I'm so excited. Oh, what a treat. Yeah. And I do want to talk about why you changed your name, but I don't with only 10 minutes. I'd rather talk about salvation. It's up to you though. Because I want to change my name from good servant because I don't like the fact that it's like, ooh, you're calling yourself good, right? Big mistake. But it's the first thing that pops up when you type in good servant. And so it's kind of a benefit to be the number one thing that join, number one search result, Hey, what's going on, Mark? I'm glad you're here. Oh, start talking in 5. Oh, okay. Cool. Perfect. Yeah, take your time. Take your time. No rush on the Good Servant Show. That's for sure. There's never any pressure here. God takes care of the show. So if I've had people quit on me right at the last minute and then the show will roll on, it's fine. No panicking here. But I'm grateful to have you here. That's for sure. And yeah, see, I wanted to do away with good servant and just call myself the servant, right? Because that's what I am. I'm a servant of God, right? And I always viewed the channel as being good servant, right? Like we're trying to be good servants, right? We always try, right? Like God is the good servant, right? Like obviously, right? But and we all want to be called good servant, right? Good and faithful servant. But I do get a lot of complaints about it, just like I get a lot of complaints about the logo. A lot of complaints about the logo because I guess the skin on Jesus is not dark enough, And I can understand that. I can understand why that would be offensive to people. I didn't make it. Adam was so wonderful in making that for me. And we talked about changing it, but how do we know what to change it to, right? No one's ever seen well, at least no one recently has seen Jesus, so how do we know what he looks like, right? Yeah, it says there's no good was addressed to the self, right? Oh, yeah. There is none good. Well, I mean, yeah, we strive to be a good servant. That was the whole point, Yeah. That's what I think, Hannah. You know, I was like, well, when people type in good servant, which it is common for people to do that, right? And for if you're looking for, religious materials, because you hear that statement, good and faithful servant, right? And so when people type that in, I'm the first one that pops up. And if you have a channel, you know how much of a benefit that really is. And so that's why I wanted to ask Paula about her channel, because her channel was the same way. If you typed in Bible literalist, right? Her name was the first one that popped up, and that was a commonly searched thing for people that were into the Bible, And then Level Up is like, there's a lot of people that do video games, right? Like kids that do video games, and Level Up is very common. If like you type that in, you get like a million different people, And so I always wondered that, but we all have different reasons for things, right? And many people have approached me to change things or to, change logos, change titles of things for, certain favors or money or whatever, right? And you're like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not compromising that. There's always people that are willing to ask you for that, And I remember when, because Flat Earth was really huge, right? I would say it was huge for like a couple of years, and then they like banned it in a way where if it if it wasn't recommended anymore, and channels that were like growing like 10,000 a week, were were not growing anymore, and there was channels that got so big, and then when Flat Earth got stopped, it was like, oh wow, like bam. And there was all these people that were willing to do whatever if you would get the flat out of it, take Flat Earth out of your name, and we'll help you out with this or that or the other thing. And that's why I had a lot of respect for Arwen back in the day, because he was approached like that to change his show from Flat Earth Early Bird, right? And he never did. And he's broke, man. He lives pretty frugally, and so you can imagine it takes a certain amount of integrity for that. So hopefully he comes to Jesus for salvation in his life, because yeah, I put a lot of work into that guy, man. And so and here's the thing, right? If you're not led by God, it's never going to work to try to talk somebody into oh, so you still don't get all my live stream notifications? That's horrible. And see, like, this is the thing, Hannah, right? Is what I try to do is have the live stream, and then send I also send it on my other page, and my community page, and I hope that you get it, But if not, I'm gonna have to start going back to sharing it on Skype again, because I was doing that for a little while last week, and I do that once in a while. I'll go for half the week, I'll do it or something. And but maybe I need to do it on Facebook too. The thing is on Facebook, I'm very conservative about what I put up there, because it's like that's kind of how I communicate with my relatives and stuff. I'm not really real connected with my relatives, so I communicate with them on there. And so, I don't go ahead and put everything that I believe up there. I'm not. Of course, I talk about Jesus, but I mean, I don't put all this other stuff. So, what are BHIs? What is that? What is that? Oh, yeah. Black Hebrew Israelites are deceived. Yeah, and it's sad because there's a lot of very, very smart guys, especially smart, very smart Bible guys that are deceived by that. And the thing is like I'm not quite sure what the right answer is for some of those things. And so all I know is how to use the Bible in the spirit of Jesus, right? Which is like to be helpful, to build people up, to help people get to the right answer, in a healing kind of way, right? Like approach somebody like they just came to the hospital. And so I don't know how to debate the Bible. All right, so she's backstage. I'm so excited. Now I'm nervous, right? All right, so let me go ahead and invite Paula to the show. Hello, Paula. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, Steve. I'm doing all right. How are you?
Yay! I'm so excited because I never had you on before. Like all those times that we were here, and I never got to have you on, and now you're on here, and so now it makes me feel happy.
Awesome.
So like there's a lot of things that like we've been going through as a group, right? Where like we'll start focusing on like certain issues, right? Or we'll be focusing on like just serving God and trying to plant seeds, right, for salvation. And then we'll come back to what is salvation exactly? What are the actual steps? Like what is involved with that? After, before, what is separate from it, and it could get pretty, you think until you start going through it again, and
Right.
that's the where I find out, okay, I'm not a teacher, I'm not qualified to do this, right? Like I'm just like a person that talks about the Bible, and I really like to discuss God all the time, but really qualified teachers are good to like help explain these things to us, and so what are your thoughts on salvation?
Well, it's an offer of adoption. Is the way I like to think of it. That you accept by trusting the Jesus who rose from the dead, and you can't earn that. Nobody who is adopted pays a fee, right? It's the one who adopts you that pays the fee. In the
Right.
same way, Jesus paid the fee and offers to adopt everybody in the orphanage, but he's not going to force anybody to accept. And so our message is this message of adoption, and it's like it says in 2 Corinthians 5, around verse 20, it says that we're Christ's ambassadors and that God appeals to people through us to spread this good news, which isn't dangling sinners over the fires of hell. It's good news. You can be adopted and reconciled to God. So, and that it takes humility to be able to accept a gift, especially that one from God, and then the proper response is gratitude, and that's what truly makes a person saved. Because there are a lot of people who will say some words, say a prayer, and not really think about their reconciling with God. They're just looking for a ticket out of hell, or what I call fire insurance, and that's not a changed relationship. So that's what I would say about it.
Well, because like for me, the big part of it was accepting the relationship itself, right? Like, well, if I want to be saved, that means that I'm accepting that I'm created by God, and He has defined right and wrong for me and how to act. And so part of me accepting salvation is getting in line, with what God wants from me. And the more more effort I put into trying to stay in the spirit and trying to have less of me and more of him, right? The more I realize that serving God is what I was made to do, and fitting like in life where you're supposed to fit is way better than resting on the couch. And
Right.
so you know what I mean? And so like I used to think, oh, that's what an effort it would be to have to read the Bible all the time. And but I love the Bible now. I want to hear God's voice. You know what I mean? I want to hear the words, you know, and I want to spread the seeds all over the place, you know. And you know, I was told that like there has to be some kind of big experience, you know, like this big born again feeling inside. And now I would say that I identified myself as a Christian probably for the last 15 years, but it's really the last 5 years since Flat Earth that really something happened inside of me. So I don't know what when I was saved or what happened at these last 5 years or what about the 10 years before that. Like it's confusing. I just try to move forward, but I still would like to know about it, you know, more about that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like, you know, when they say you should have this big experience, I think it's like picture a big field with a fence down the middle, right? And there's people on both sides. And one side is all torn up and dark and miserable, and the other side is got, you know, nice soft grass and trees and flowers. And if you are really far, you know, and the farther you get from the fence, the worse it is, or the better it is, right? Or
Right.
so if you're near the fence on the bad side and you hop over the fence, you're not going to notice as much of a big change as someone who went a greater distance to cross the fence. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's simple because everybody isn't, you know, as far on the lost side. You know, you're lost is lost, but you're not as not everybody is as wicked.
Right.
There are some nice people who are lost.
Right. Oh yeah. I always tell people there's going to be a lot of people far better than me. They're going to go in that lake, you know. And that's the sad part of it, right? Is that like so many times, and I've had to kind of live and learn a little bit the hard way, but like so many times I want to uh, treat it like a sales job, you know, like, oh, I want to just get somebody from start to finish believing in God, and I want it to happen today and to convince them and all that. And that's not at all the way it's supposed to go. It's like I plant seeds, God creates the new believer, you know, by watering and
Right.
you know, and so like it's so hard to when you, especially when you really care about somebody, you really love them, right? You're like, okay, well, I just got to plant a little seed, you know, because you just want it for them so bad. Please, you have to know, here's all this confirmation, right? What prevents, it's like, I feel like there's people that can get all the way to where, like, you know, all they have to do is just accept Christ. They're already doing everything, right? And it's like what's preventing them from being able to say it, you know? Because I feel like there's an actual ability that they don't have to do that.
Well, I think it's lack of humility. People want to be, they don't want God over them. And they're like, hey, look, I can be nice. Like you were saying, I can be nice. I don't need a book. I don't need God. I'm already a nice person. But they don't get it that this is, you know, I don't care how nice your room is in the orphanage. You're still in the orphanage. You're still on the bad side of the fence.
And that's the argument I get. That's the argument I get from people. It's like, oh, I'm a nice enough guy. You know, if God doesn't like me, then that's his problem. I'm like, what? How could you have that? How could you have that, you know, attitude, you know, like you're so close, right? All you got to do is, you know, just submit, right? Just like surrender basically to what's real, you know, like reality is we were created. That's just reality. That's not religion, right? We were created by God and this is how it is, right? And I do get the sense that people, they want to define right and wrong for themselves. Even if it's close to what the Bible says for them, they want to be in charge of it.
Right. Exactly. That's the thing is people want to be in charge. They don't want to have any authority over them. And yet like I said, if they picture it as an orphanage or being on the wrong side of the fence, there's just no argument you can make. All you can do is accept or reject.
Yeah. It's just like, especially now, like we're getting so close to, I mean, to me, I think you'd have to be in denial to think we're not in real, the end times, right? I saw a song the other day. It was about this, I don't know. I don't watch the news anymore now. I don't even watch the news anymore. That's how ridiculous it is, right? Is that there was a song about that president, I guess, from the Ukraine, talking about, can one man save the world? And they're singing about this guy. And I'm like, well, are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, one man did save the world, like, what are you talking about? Like we are so far gone that if people don't notice that is blasphemy, right? Like, then where are we at?
Well, we're primed to accept the Antichrist is where the world is. And I wasn't it about the president of Ukraine or something they were singing this about, or
that's right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're looking for a savior. Yeah.
Oh,
they're looking for a false savior.
If it is this guy, man, it's not what I expected, Like, I'm like, wow, right. I expected this supernatural being, or something, right? Something that could maybe convince people that, because I think that he's going to come in the place of Jesus, right? And try to convince people that that's who he is. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I'm really worried about, this is what maybe I'm not like as worried about it. I don't know. I am worried about it because it did almost get me 5 years ago. I went down a couple rabbit holes because Eric Dubé is like this outspoken non-Christian, and so I watched a couple of those videos, garbage, but this that zeitgeist syncretism type stuff almost got me, with the because of course all the languages were changed at the Tower of Babel, and there's all these different religions that they all kind of sync up, and they all kind of like lead to the Antichrist. And I think a lot of people are falling victim to this syncretism, and right. Man, it is creepy. It is creepy because how do you convince somebody that, well, here's 90 religions or whatever that all line up, right? And then here's one that's against that. Like, it's always the least likely thing in my life that I thought could be true is true, and it's like, I didn't grow up with God in my life, like as a kid, like any religion. I mean, my mom's a Christian, but I didn't. You would never know it, And living in very liberal California with public schools and all that, it was a major shift, right? To learn the truth and to try to fit within the parameters of what God has planned for me, what He imagined me to be, And so, how do you get somebody, especially from like liberal areas, that run into this syncretism and this zeitgeist stuff? It's kind of, I think, easy to prove that it's wrong, but it's convincing though,
Right. It always is. It's like it says in Proverbs 18:17, the first person to speak always seems right until they're cross-examined. When people don't cross-examine, they just go with whatever sounds good, and they don't want to hear counter arguments or anything like that. And that syncretism, it surprises me that so many, especially in flat earth, that pride themselves on being awake,
right.
Not woke, but awake,
right.
are falling for this syncretism because that's what the powers that be are into. That's who pushes it.
Oh, you would so think crazy.
They'd be, you would think they'd be alert to that, but they're not. They're falling for it easily.
Well, and this is what really gets me about it, right? Is the people involved with it. They have to have help from up, from more powerful sources, because it's made like Santos Bonacci like a celebrity behind all this stuff, and like they went and bought all that property in Mexico, and I mean it's a nice facility, with like the massages and all this stuff, right? And they put the rocks on you. I don't know what that is, all the stuff, right? It's like this, it's like a resort, and people like I guess they get up all their money, their retirement money or whatever, right? And they just give it to them and they go move in over there. and they don't ever register to drive or register to vote, or they're not into birth certificates and all this other stuff, right? Like, and I get that part of it too, but man, it's like, I don't know, it's growing faster than the people involved should be able to make it grow. That's the thing that's crazy,
Right.
And there's a lot of great flat earthers, right, that I know, right, that are just nice people that I've known for like just like you, the last 5 years or whatever, and they're falling for it, and I can't convince them otherwise.
I know, it's frustrating. You would think they would know better, but they don't.
I mean,
and they don't want to hear it.
Well, I'm always open to someone like Pete, like being crazy or something, talking about something wayward or whatever. That's like, okay, this guy's got maybe a couple screws loose, but if you ignore that, you might be able to get some value out of him, and maybe we can help him out, right? But when you get somebody that seems like they're not nuts like that, right? Poor Pete. But you're like, why are you falling for this stuff, right? Like, what's going on, And it's heartbreaking, isn't it? I don't want anybody to die in that lake of fire,
Right. But I think what it is, as far as the devil's strategy would be that he doesn't care how much truth you have as long as it's not the one that will save you.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And I try to tell people that, like, especially people that are like, that like say we're in the Bible all the time. If the devil's coming to get us, he's going to just change one little letter at a time, one little thing at a time, millimeters at a time, right? Because they won't be able to do that anything else to us, right? And so I'm like, well, just look out for deceptions where it looks like what we do, but it's really not, And
Right.
now I even avoid places that like call Jesus a different name. I mean, I'm okay with Yeshua, right? But like all these other names for Jesus, like I'm like, oh man, you know what? I'm just gonna trust my Bible, right? Because there's power in that, and I know that, right? So I'm not gonna, change my mind about that, because I think that they are trying to take something away from me,
Oh,
And
exactly.
I don't know how you feel about the names and all that, but
well, names, a lot of people don't understand how names change across languages, and it's a natural, normal thing. And I always point to the Greek translation of the Old Testament done by Jews a couple hundred years before Christ. And the way they translated, if something's a proper name that they don't want to change, they'll try to sound it out in the new language, right? So going from Hebrew to Greek. But they didn't do that with most of the names for God. They didn't try to translate, or it's called transliteration, when you just try to port the sounds over and not the meaning. So for God, like there's Elohim and there's Adonai and Jehovah. These are all translated. There's only two words in Greek. God basically is theos, and the other word is Lord, which is kurios. Only two names for God they use. They might add another word like the Lord of Hosts or something like that, but and those same names are used in the New Testament. Theos and kurios. This is all they use. So they're not proper names. They're titles and they're descriptions of who God is. God is God. God is the Lord. And people get all crazy about the word Lord and say, oh, that means Baal, which means this false God, which is really terrible logic.
Right.
If the Bible translators used it and Jesus quoted the Septuagint, all the New Testament mostly quotes the Septuagint, the Greek. They don't quote a Hebrew text. So I'm okay with whatever names they use. And Joshua comes out as Jesus, basically. It's Iesous, or different endings depending on the part of speech. So it's Jesus is Joshua, right? And that's also the name given to Jesus in Greek in the New Testament is Jesus. So why it wasn't, in English, it took a different path then. At first it went through from Greek to Latin. And Latin
Oh, that's where it turned into
yeah,
Jesus right there.
right.
Yeah.
It split off to Latin and then Latin to English because English didn't exist yet. Latin
Wow.
was first. And so it's Jesus, and like in other languages, a little variation like Jesus.
Right.
And then the letter J issue is the most stupid argument I've ever
Right.
heard. Well, second most
Amen to
stupid.
that. Yes. That
The
bothers
stupidest
me.
the stupidest argument I've ever heard is that somehow God didn't know the value of pi because when he told the people of Israel to make those, basically barrels, he gave them a 3-to-1 ratio, and that's not quite right. It's 3.14159. And I'm like, are you telling me there's a little notch in the rim where those digits are missing?
Right.
That's
I
the
know.
stupidest argument. But the letter
So
J, I
crazy.
mean, there were no English letters in the Bible. There are not even any Latin letters in the Bible. They're all Greek or Hebrew. So
Right.
for them to say there's no letter J is just a ridiculous, ignorant argument. And what
They
happened in
bother me, man.
English,
Those
yeah,
guys bother me, man. No offense, man.
right.
They were
But what
reading out of
happened,
some Mormon text the last time I was over there.
that's ridiculous.
Yes,
But
and I was like, no, I'm out of here, man. Forget this
But the
place.
thing is, with the letter J, it was written like that, even though it was at first it was the letter I. They just wrote it different when it started a paragraph or a sentence. They would write it in the J form, but it was still an I to them. It's still the letter I.
Right.
And if it was, and as time went on, it took on its own sound. They pronounced it different too, and that's how we got the name Jesus. There's nothing wrong with it. It's
Right,
not
but there's
pagan.
power in
Yeah,
it, right? Like when I'm feeling like, scared or feeling like, like attacked, right? I'm just like, oh, Jesus, please keep all this evil away from me. And I instantly feel better,
right.
And so I know there's power in that name, So it's like, why change something, right? Like I understand, okay, if you want to say Yeshua, right? Because you're going back to the original transcripts. Okay, that's fine. I'm good with that. But if something is working, or if it's in my Bible, right, then I know God's only going to hold me accountable for what's in there. He's not going to
Right.
be like, well, you didn't extra search and find out that this guy was, goofy, or that you didn't check the history of this guy, or, it's God doesn't trick people or hold you accountable for some technicality, or, he wants you to have a relationship with him if you want to fall in and do right. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you want it, you can have it. And it's more like that in my mind, right? Than some kind of a puzzle, right? Because really we're supposed to lean on him, right? I'm never going to understand the Bible right. Maybe like pretty close, but not ever perfectly. And so I got to lean on God's understanding of everything, right? And I pray to him like, God, I know the Bible's true, that I believe that, and I believe that you're the Lord, right? And I just want to believe everything the right way, and those are my prayers, and I know that to call on him in that way is good, and because it feels good to me. And so I don't know what your opinion is on that, but
Well, yeah, God knows your heart, right? Other
yeah,
people don't. And he knows your intents. He knows what you were capable of understanding. He knows whether you turned down information that was offered to you legitimately. He knows, that's for him to figure out.
yeah,
And all we are responsible for is for what we know, what we have been given. God doesn't compare you to everyone else. He compares you to what your potential was that was possible. So not everybody has the same environment they're born into. Not everybody is the same mentality or intelligence or disposition, personality stuff. All those variables God is going to consider, and only God can do that.
yeah,
So we need to remember that we're not in a contest with other people. If we're in a contest, it's with our own will to take advantage of what's available to us. And
right,
that's what we'll be judged by when we're judged at the Bema seat. For it says things done while in the body, good or bad. Um,
yeah,
that would also cover. People say it's only for giving rewards, and it says no, good or bad. So if there are saved people who did something bad, they're going to be judged for that too. Not to lose salvation or gain salvation, because that's determined already, but to be rewarded or not. And so, if we get the cart before the horse and say we're worried about our performance, then we've forgotten that this is a relationship and we've been adopted. There's nothing we can do to undo that.
Oh, it's such a good feeling, such a secure feeling.
Right.
Because what you're saying reminds me of like the back half of 1 Corinthians, where Paul's talking about like burning our works, right? And if it comes down to stubble and wood and all that, we still are saved, but we'll have nothing, right? Being judged for our good and bad works, right? But if there's a lot of good there'll be precious stones and gold, and and to me that's exciting. I don't think about rewards at all, but like, I mean, I wouldn't turn down anything. It would be exciting to me to see how all that works out. The thing I want the most is just a glorified body, so I don't hurt anymore. No hurting, no being tired, none of that, right? Just being able to work, and not having to fight my own flesh.
Yeah, and that's all we should be, well, not all we should be concerned about, but to have that as a priority, I would say. Just to remember what salvation is, and that it was freely offered to us and we accepted willingly, and we should live like that matters, and that's what it means to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. It doesn't mean work for, it means to take it seriously, that you've been saved and given a tremendous gift, and you will be held accountable for what you do with what you're given, beyond salvation. I think that would make a big difference in how many Christians just don't care. I mean,
it's sad to me. I can't believe people could have that attitude, where, they'll go and say a few words, they'll think they're saved, 2 middle fingers up, and they just go, How could you be that way? Like to me, in my mind, that's a made up person. That's a fictional character, but it's not. In reality, there's people like that.
Right. It's like it says in Matthew 25, where the sheep and goat judgment, where the goats said, "Didn't we do this, this, and this in your name?"
Right.
And he says, "I never knew you."
Right.
So there are people who are doing good deeds in the name of Jesus who never even got saved.
Oh, it's just unbelievable.
Because he said, "I never knew you."
Yeah, right. And that's the whole thing, right? And I try to tell people that, right? Like, so when they're coming to God, or when they're coming to Jesus, right, and they're saying, "Lord, Lord, look at all the great things I've done in my name." It's like, if you really know God, you're not going to go start bragging about your good works, and that's why he should let you in. You should be at his feet thanking him for, like, "Thank you for sparing me. I'm garbage." Like please let me in. I'm so grateful, And and so it does like show, like, in that I love how the Bible stretches those language to like its limit. I know English is not what it was written in, but it really stretches English to the maximum, where it even shows like the relationship. Like, you really don't know God if you're bragging, But my favorite part of the Bible is I think it's in John, where he's talking about, like, I am in the Father and the Father is in me, and I am in you and you are in me and my words are in you, and eat this, it's my flesh and my blood, right? And you're like, wow, I'm in him, he's in me, he's in the Father, they're one. And it's like, it really stretches it out, like all the possibilities of us being part of each other, right?
Right.
And that's amazing to me. That's so beautiful, because that's what I want to be,
Right.
But anyway, it's time to hit the old dusty trail. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. You're welcome to come on anytime you want to come on, and you have a free pass. Anytime you want to, just say drop the link and I'll drop it.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. I'm honored. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
All righty. Praise Jesus for his sacrifice and his grace. All glory to God because he deserves it. And, pray for the children. Pray for anyone being victimized out there. Pray for each other. It's important. I will see you guys tonight at 4 p.m. California time.